Welcome to This Week in Real Estate with Jonathan Harmon and Bryan Nale, your local experts on all things real estate in Middle Tennessee. Listen in as they discuss the current state of the market, the latest trends, and have a little fun while doing it. We do want to say the opinions voiced on this podcast are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individuals. All right, we're back, y'all, with the two folks that put dumb in addendum.
Right now.
Yeah, I'm actually waiting on one as well. What do you know?
Maybe it's the same file.
That's funny. I bet I'm going to guess that it is. That's funny. The dumb and addendum. Yep. That's good stuff. Welcome back. My name is Jonathan Harmon. I'm with the J. Harmon Home team of Keller Williams. And this is my buddy, my good friend, my favorite lender, no matter what the statistics say, Mr. Bryan Nale of Premise Mortgage.
Oh, well played. That's fun stuff. Yeah, one of my favorite realtors, man. I tell people all the time.
Notice how he said that. Yeah. Did you guys catch the diplomacy there? I said my favorite lender. He said one of my favorite realtors.
There's a food chain. But no, it's funny. I was talking
every night, are you?
Yeah.
I was talking with somebody the other day, just yesterday. Structure Title had some guys from the SEC, Matt Taylor and Jamie came in from SEC, which is a site engineering consulting, and they do basically if there's
we were talking football there for a minute.
Yeah, I know, right? It means more.
Yeah.
If there's a development or any kind of project, roads, anything, and it's happening in Rutherford County and now kind of expanding out into the whole mid-state area, there's a good chance SEC laid out the site plan for that.
They do very good work.
There's some smart guys, smart team over there all the way around. But they were. I was talking with a girl from First Bank afterwards, and I was like, we're blessed in this community. We've got a lot of great realtors. We've got a lot of great lenders. We've got a lot of great title people, and we've got some. Just like any community, we probably got some that I would not recommend to my family or friends.
Oh, I'm just gonna say we got some duds in all of those as well.
But we have a lot of really good ones.
We do.
So I've got a lot of great friends that are realtors. I got a lot of great friends that are realtors in the title business. The same. So we're fortunate in this community to have a good stable of professionals. So
you're so much more diplomatic and kind than I am.
Well,
I'm in awe, but I'm also like, yeah, I would never say that because
you've got the pro tip for the day later in the show, but I'm going to go ahead and give a pro tip real quick, and that's it. If you're thinking about buying a house or doing anything real estate wise, make sure that you're working with somebody that meets that threshold. Be one of those good people in this business, and not just whoever's got the shiniest penny or drives the nicest car or has the best social media. I think it's important to work with somebody who's going to put your interests first.
And I'm gonna add on to that, and I absolutely positively mean what I'm about to say. Okay, like I 100% mean this. If you are not interested in working with me, if you need a realtor and you're not interested in working with me for whatever reason, you don't like me, you have a cousin that you have to work with because you have Thanksgiving dinner, whatever, right? Whatever it is, okay, I have very thick skin. If you will call me and say, Jonathan, I'm not interested in working with you, and you don't even have to tell me why. I don't want to work with you, and you want to get some advice on vetting out that realtor, on knowing how the process goes, on vetting out that lender, knowing the right questions to ask, all of that kind of stuff, I will absolutely share that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So throwing that out there, you don't have to work with me for that. I'll be happy to still talk to you. I tell people decently often, I get a lot of yeses, but I get a whole lot of no's as well.
Yeah.
I don't mind being your second choice.
Yeah.
Right. And I will help you make your first choice successful. I think I got at least 4 deals done last year for someone else.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. And that's because you care about the person more than the transaction.
And maybe the next time you'll pick me, or maybe you won't ever pick me, but you'll tell somebody about me.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm good with that.
All right. Let's move on into headlines.
Let's do it. Headlines.
You're back.
Okay. We're back. You going first? Am I going first?
You're up. I don't have a headline.
You don't have no headline.
No headline.
Have you ever heard the thing about having a forehead? You have a forehead. So if you put 4 fingers up there, that's where your hairline starts. My hairline is back here. So I have like a 16 head. by the time you get back there. Actually, it's more like a 17 hit.
4.
Yeah, I have lots of headlines. 17 of them to be precise. All right, so my headline comes from an article from bankrate.com, fairly reliable resource. This was in March of 2024, and it confirms at least part of, I guess, the state of the market and why we are where we are. And it's talking about equity. So how much equity is the average homeowner sitting on in the United States right now? I'm gonna go through the numbers, and then I want to get to why that matters. Okay, so the Bankrate estimates that the average in 2020, and they pull all the information from existing mortgages at the time, at the beginning of the pandemic, that the average U.S. homeowner was sitting on $182,000 in equity. That's up, by the way. So like 2015 was another year that they cited, and at that time it was like 131,000. So it was up substantially at the beginning of the pandemic. So pandemic starts beginning of 2020, right? Yeah. And by the end of 2022, that number had gone from 182 to 274.
Wow.
Yes. And as of it said early 2024, so I don't know if that's January, February, whatever. We're at $299K. The average homeowner in the U.S. is sitting on equity.
Wow!
So that is money that is just tied up and it's sitting there. And one of the questions that is asked, or another article that was talking about the same thing, they asked, well, how do we tap into that? Well, maybe you don't.
Yeah.
Right. But the bottom line is there's a lot of value right now just sitting in real estate that's accumulating wealth. Right. And for a lot of folks, their home and their retirement are the two places that quite literally all of their wealth is sitting.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe they have a little bit of money in savings. Maybe they have a second property. Maybe they've got, valuable art, or, I mean, who knows, right? Yeah. Whatever. But the vast majority is sitting in your home and in your retirement.
Yeah.
And probably in that order. Number one is your home. Number two is probably your retirement. And so where this matters is when we start figuring out all the reasons that the market is just kind of slow right now, and it is, part of it is that we're just sitting on equity. It's cool to sit back and look at your retirement and look at your home's equity and go, man, I've got a net worth of, whatever, 300K plus whatever, maybe another 300K in your retirement.
Right.
And if your spouse has 300K in retirement, between the two of you, you almost got $1 million in net worth.
Yeah. Just like that. I mean, just by nature of just of doing things now instead of waiting to do them.
Well, and here's what else that means is that I want to get $1 million and retire. $1 million is not as much as it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of being a millionaire now is probably a lot more attainable for a lot of families and households than you would have thought.
Yeah, and it's almost a so what.
Yeah. So you're a millionaire.
Yeah.
It's like the new salaries. Like you used to be making six figures. That's great. Now you in six figures.
Kind of got to. Yeah. You better get there.
You better get there. That's a great way to say it. You better get there. And that's and there's a lot of people who won't. And that's okay. We all make choices in career paths and what we do. But yeah, when you start thinking just about, we talk about inflation on this show a lot, and we talk about, the cost of living. So yeah, that $1 million in retirement, especially if some of it's in your real estate. I tell people all the time when they're weighing on whether they should get caught up on their retirement assets. Somebody sells that house. They got $200,000 in equity coming back.
$299,000 in equity.
What should they do with it? And I'd say, man, you've got to talk with the financial advisor before you decide how much money to put down on the house that you're buying. Talk with the financial advisor. Are you on track for retirement? If not, can you put some of this into a brokerage account that's not qualified funds, but can be there for you for an emergency and maybe grow and to give you
shore up your foundation,
to give you some income later on? Is that going to be better for you in the long run than having that go towards the equity in your home?
Well, and I'll tell you, the other thing that this speaks to is there's Fannie and Freddie raise the thresholds, right? FHA loan limits go up, and the conventional loan limits go up. I know that's one of the things
that's going to come up later in the show.
But here's the other thing: is right now there's a threshold that if you're single and you sell a house for under $250,000. Then you're automatically excluded, and it was your residence, right? Yeah. You're automatically excluded from any kind of capital gains. But you get over 250. As a married couple, it's 500. Well, that's antiquated.
Yeah.
I mean, you're hardly going to sell a house in Rutherford County for $250K.
Is it the sales price or the difference between the purchase price when you bought it and what you're selling it for?
So the title company is going to issue you a 1099. Now, whether you actually pay taxes on it or not, one of the qualifying things is if you're single and the sales price is $250. If you're married and the sales price is $500. Now, whether they have to pay it or not is another story. But the threshold for them to not even issue you a 1099 at all, right? They know you're exempt at that point. Is at $250 and $500.
Okay. So then you work with your CPA to determine what your basis is and decide if you have to pay a gain.
Correct. Okay. So, but that threshold's supremely outdated at this point.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, way outdated. So. As we talk about why there's not more resale homes on the market, we have to look at all the factors. It's not just interest rates. I mean, that's a big part of it, right? But then there's also, I mean, I'm sitting on $299,000 in equity. I'm going to be able to, all of a sudden, half or more of the value of my home is paid off, right? Yeah. I've only got 50% of my house's value to pay off. All of a sudden, it feels more attainable to have a paid-for house.
Right.
So psychologically, it flips a switch where you're like, oh, I can do this.
Well, and I want to go back to something I said, and that's because you did something now. Now that now for you was in the past, right? But you didn't hesitate. You bought a home, and you've for a lot of people, they've bought a home. They've been dollar cost averaging just by payroll contributions to their 401ks, and they didn't wait to do it. The sooner you start with anything like this, the more time is going to work for you. It's never too late to start, but the sooner you can start, the better.
Well, and I know that there's some folks that kick themselves and they second guess the timing of what they did, you know, and look, if you bought in 2019, you know, you've gained a third in equity on average across the U.S. And here's the last thing that I will tell you on this, and then we'll move to something else. Is if you're sitting around waiting and you're going, oh man, all these prices are so high, they're so high, it's a bubble, it's going to pop, you know, and everybody's going to lose, and we're going to have another just mad influx of foreclosures. It's not going to happen, folks.
Yeah.
The biggest difference between now and 2009 is that in 2009, that average equity for a household was less than $50,000.
Yeah.
Because people were, I mean, you had people getting 110, 120% loans, literally banking on that house continuing to appreciate and hit the value that you actually borrowed. Yeah. And not that you paid for it, but you borrowed more. Banks were willing to loan you more than what the house was even worth.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case anymore.
I think this would be a good time to say this. If you are sitting on equity like that, then and you don't have a HELOC, then go get one. Go
you
get
don't have
it.
to use it.
Go get it now. You're not going to pay any interest if you don't ever take a draw on it. But go get yourself a HELOC, because if we do go into that recession and you lose your job, you're not going to be able to get a HELOC at that point. Mm-hmm. If you already have one, you can lean on that. Now, don't use it as a complete crutch, because then you'll end up in a spiral where you have more debt on the house than you want to. And even though it's interest on the payments, it can be hard to keep up with them. But if you lose your job and you can supplement even just a little bit of money out of your equity in your house to help you pay bills through that cycle until you're back at work, it could be the difference between you being forced to sell, which would be not a bad thing because you'll get a lot of equity, but being forced to sell and being able to keep your home. So get the HELOC now. And it's just like I used to dabble in small business lending. I'd always tell business owners, the time to get a line of credit as a small business is not
when you're thriving.
When you need the money. It's when things are going great, because that's when the bank's willing to offer you a line of credit.
I'll tell you, I'm not a huge Dave Ramsey fan, but one of the best pieces of advice that I've heard him give, most practical pieces of advice I've heard him give, because a lot of it isn't, is if you want that security blanket of that credit card or a HELOC or whatever, don't get a checking account. Don't make it accessible. Make it only accessible by a card, a debit card, credit card, whatever. And then take that card and freeze it. Literally freeze
Ziploc bag full of
it
water,
in a
freeze
block of ice in your freezer,
Yeah.
so that when you hit a crisis, you have to purposely go through a process
Yeah.
to get to it. And that hopefully will give you that time to pause and go, okay,
Is this necessary?
is
or
this
it
really
want?
a crisis?
Yeah. And another thing too, to that end, is right now, so you're still working and money's coming in, inflation's high, so cost of living's higher, but take some of your money and put it into some sort of liquid savings account. Don't tie everything you have up in long-term investments, whether that's, crypto or brokerage accounts or real estate. Keep a little bit of your money liquid, because right now banks are paying decent interest rates on deposits. So do that.
I got a CD at over 5%.
And that way, if things go awry for you, before you get to that point where you have to take that HELOC draw, you've maybe been able to spend down some of your savings. So I think this is an important time right now, while the job market is still strong, to encourage people to build that emergency fund. And really, a 6-month emergency fund would be so good to have right now, because if we do hit a recession with some job loss, then it might take 6 months to a year for the economy to come back. And I remember in 2008, when my dad was laid off, it took him a solid 18 months to find really stable employment again.
And make no mistake, that's the plan.
Yeah. That's
I mean, the only way that the Federal Reserve eases off of the rates where they are, the only way that you see lower interest rates, the only way that you see any prices of any sort coming down, is for us to hurt.
right. Well, they want that soft landing.
It's not going to happen.
They want that soft landing, and it's looking like it's going to be harder and harder to pull up. Nick, moving into market movers.
Are we doing the picture?
Let's move over to market movers, because I got a good segue here.
Segways?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we've got one.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's not the Job style.
All right, you're back.
All right. For y'all that might have just heard that, like, we were asking, do people still ride Segways? And I said, we've got one. And Missy was like, oh, no, I need to ride
Like
it.
the
It's not the Job from Arrested Development style. It actually just has like a brace that you kind of lean and squeeze your knees
Yeah.
into. And so you're basically, your hands are free and you can ride around on it. It's pretty neat.
Why in the hell do you have that?
Santa Claus. Santa Claus brought it to the kids a couple of years ago. Seen him.
There's those little unicycle ones. They're fast, dude.
Yeah. We're going to lose my segue. So next week, the Federal Reserve is meeting. So we're talking about what they're going to do. So their meetings next week, and I think the consensus is that they're probably going to leave interest rates alone. I'd say there's a higher chance that they would raise rates than they lower them at this meeting. I don't think they're going to raise rates, but their commentary in the press conference that afternoon is going to be a big time market mover. So other market movers I have for next week is that the personal consumption expenditures actually comes out on the 26th. So this Friday, I'm sorry, that forecast is 2.6. I don't think this Friday is the 26th.
It is.
It is. I got lucky there. So 2.6 is the forecast for personal consumption expenditures. That's an inflation tracking report. And what's neat about the personal consumption expenditures is it really gets down into consumer spending and like what are we spending our money on? What are those costs doing? It breaks it down in a little bit more detail. So that'll be a key report to look at. And then tomorrow we have jobless claims.
Yeah. I want folks to really, if they're watching this and they're thinking about all the stuff that you're going over and you're going to all these numbers and statistics and whatever, this is why I love economics so much, is that we're quantifying, we're putting a number to all these analytics, like, job this and expenditures and, GDP and all CPI, all those different things. Every single one of those is actually a numerical and monetary measurement of people's fear and how good they feel about things, and it is a monetary quantification of our mood, basically, as a country.
Did Taylor Swift have good timing for her Eras tour or what? Like, everybody felt great about the economy in that tour.
Yeah.
And we all spent a lot of money on tickets if you were lucky
We
enough to be
all
able to
did
get them.
not, no.
If you were lucky enough to get them for your 9-year-old girl who loves Taylor Swift, then you paid through the nose. But yeah, it's
So it's psychology
It is
quantified by money.
Because you know, think like, what are you paying when you're looking at, like, right now? The Nashville Predators they just won a game last night. They got a game 3 of the Stanley Cup playoffs first round in Nashville Friday night. You know,
They shouldn't have won a game against the team that they beat.
No, they should have won last night. They should have won. They let them get away on Sunday night. They should be 2-0 right now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Different show.
Yeah, right. we should have that show. But no, like, what are people paying for tickets? And, you know, golly, man, they're still paying a lot for them. You know, I don't see that building not being sold out. Of course, it's not going to be. It's going to be sold. It's going to be sold out. But there's going to, like, the demand for those tickets is still soaring. I would imagine the secondary market,
along with
tickets,
$15 beers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
So, yeah, that's the personal consumption. We're still spending money.
Because everybody still has jobs.
Yeah.
Because we're not in a recession. Because we're not hurting yet, and therefore we will not see interest rates drop.
That's right. All of those things are true.
Yes.
Right.
So I have a market mover as well, but mine is a little bit different. My question is, what's it going to take to move the market? So on the real estate side of things, sales are very slow right now. New construction's building. I think I have to go back and look, but I think we're above 65% of our available inventory is new construction. Everything is new construction. Okay. And it's not because there's significantly more new construction, it's because there's that significantly less of existing homes. It's the same thing that we've been talking about. It just keeps getting worse though. So what is it for real? What is it going to take to move the market? And I think there's two things that it's going to take. I think it's going to take rates dropping into the high fives. Not going to happen anytime soon.
Right.
Maybe for a day or two if there's some stellar news, maybe, right? But even then, pretty much it's not going to happen.
When you say that into the high fives, do you mean par pricing, or do you mean like you can reasonably buy it down into the high fives?
I think it'd be even okay if it was reasonably buy it down, right? But what's reasonable?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is that, you know,
There's a lot of value in points. It has been for a while now.
Yeah. And so a recession for real is what I'm saying, right? Or a tremendous drop in equity.
Yeah.
So that people start feeling the crunch like they need to move.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen either.
That's tough to see how that happens.
It doesn't.
I remember one of the a big kind of aha for me, because I think I was probably like a lot of people, and it was probably 2019, maybe 2020 before COVID, but in that kind of time frame. That's certainly not after, you know, March of 2020. You and I were doing this show back when it was just you, and you had different guests every week, and us, you know, and we were talking about, you know, real estate, and I said, man, at some point prices have to stabilize or come down a little bit. And you asked me, what's going to be the catalyst to make that happen? And I was like, gosh, I don't know. Like Nissan could shut down and Middle Tennessee would be okay.
Yeah.
You know, State Farm did pull out, right? And I think they still have a lot of employees in the area, but
no speed bump.
But it's been nothing. Not even
foot on the gas. And then we just have an empty building. That's it.
And and I learned at that SCC thing yesterday at Structure Title that building's going to sit empty for a long time. It's in the airport overlay, so there's not a lot of things that somebody can do with that property. You can't really build up, so it's just
the best thing I heard to do with it was turn it into a magnet or CTE high school.
Yeah. Well, that could happen at some point.
I think that's a good idea. State Farm needs to donate that to Rutherford County School Board.
If you're listening, State Farm,
write it off.
Just write it off.
Take the hit on it.
Donate it. Yeah. Quit paying the taxes on it.
Yep.
So yeah, that's wild. There's no.
That was a trick question, by the way.
What was the question? What's it
gonna take for prices to stabilize? They're not.
I think they did stabilize to a certain degree.
I mean,
it's a lot more stable than it was.
Now
rates going up made prices kind of stabilize.
We
going up.
We appreciated 2% from January to February of this year.
Yeah,
in 1 month.
Annualize that, and But January, there's some seasonality there. January was when we had the snow and everything.
Just saying, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
When historical normal is 3 to 5%.
Well,
for a year.
And then to throw in there too that the January closings were the contracts that were written in December, and the February closings were the ones that were written in January.
When we only had 3 weeks of work.
Yeah.
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 You want to retract that statement?
No, I'd say they still stabilized. I mean,
I don't think so, dude. I mean, I did comps for somebody in November, and we comped a house out at 575. Okay, he's finally ready to list it. I pulled comps again. We're going to be listing at 650.
Over what time frame?
In November to now.
Wow. So maybe we did stabilize, and now the market. I'll say this. I'll say this, and I'll.
He's going to prove his point.
I don't
My
have
God.
any data, but I think that it's stabilized. Let's say this: it stabilized towards the end of 2022, and it stabilized through most of 2023. Maybe the market now has adjusted, and the market has said, okay, we understand rates are going to be between the mid 6s to mid 7s. And that's where we are now, and this is the new normal, and the market's adjusted and accepted that, and now you're starting to see acceleration again.
I don't think so. I think there's a whole other catalyst at play, and that is in 2022, we still had a decent amount of existing homes coming on. Now there is such a deficiency of existing homes that when something comes on, I mean, I'm back in multiple offers sometimes.
Yeah.
And so prices are just going to continue to go up on existing homes, and new construction is going to continue to raise itself systematically, which again goes back to have an agent that understands that and can get you everything else. So it doesn't mean that they're selling as fast, because they're not.
Right.
But what it does mean is that, like on new construction, they're not going to drop their prices because they can't.
Right.
But they are going to throw in a gazillion other
Incentives.
things for you. So have someone that understands that. And don't just take what they say, oh, if you do this, then you're going to get 2% of closing costs. Yeah. They'll give you a whole lot more than that if you ask.
Yeah.
Like a whole lot more. All right, shiny penny. Let's do it. No. What are we doing next?
Take us where you want to go.
This is real.
This is real. Ooh.
Yesterday.
I can't wait. Is that a dead person?
I thought we were keeping this to America. This has to be like in Europe, right?
Oh, it's so grainy. Are those dead gorillas? What am I looking at? Is that a gorilla pirate?
It is a gorilla pirate.
That is a gorilla pirate?
Retired showbiz.
I see gold on the ceiling.
Oh,
Get that
Yes.
gold on the ceiling. I like the carpet. I want that.
That's what you see?
Yeah, it's awesome.
The zebra?
No. The carpet, the green with it's
zebra's
like
a
hotel
rug.
carpet.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
And the Sistine Chapel with the frames up on the ceiling. That's great.
And that very pink chandelier.
Very pink chandelier.
That's
as if the extra bodies were, so you know what you would look like sitting
The
in.
stage.
yeah, they're gonna go ahead and stage it to the next level. Bring in some mannequins.
No, I'm telling you, this is an estate sale, and that's the owners.
It's like a wake.
Yeah.
We're having a
Have
wake.
y'all ever seen? There's a Ripley's Believe It or
Look at the little
The
TV.
little TV,
Everything,
yeah.
everything is perfect.
The TV just doesn't fit that
The
room.
only thing missing in this room, Jeeves, is the television.
Yeah. Did y'all ever see? There was a Ripley's Believe It or Not. Like the book Ripley's Believe It or Not, and they would have like all these crazy stories. The guy that mummified his wife and kept her in a glass coffee table.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like for real?
Yeah.
Yeah. He loved his wife so much that he mummified her, but like not in bandages. Like you could see her in her dress and all that kind of stuff, face and all, and kept her in a hermetically sealed glass coffin coffee table.
Does that need to be like signed off on by her before she's, ill, or does that like?
I don't know. I mean, because you have laws about disposition of a corpse and.
We're gonna get Tab on the show.
Yep. Tab, we have a question for you.
Come on back, Tab.
Family law. We're digging deep on this family law, buddy.
This is real, and we need to know.
This is
Oh my
real.
goodness.
All
What a-
right.
what a room.
That's-
I wonder what the rest of that house looks like. I wish you could find that listing and show us more from that house.
That is so fantastic.
To be continued next
To be
week.
continued.
That is so fantastic. I love that. That's a good one. That was a good one.
All right, Trent, where are we going? Shiny penny or pro tip?
Shiny penny.
Shiny penny.
All right, back to you.
All right. So The conforming loan limit for a single family residence throughout the country is $766,550. Here in the Nashville MSA, it is $943,000. So that means you can get a conforming loan up to $943,000. That's, you can do 5% down, you can have PMI, all of that stuff. And these counties that are included in that loan limit are Robertson, Sumner, Macon, Cheatham, Dixon, Davidson, Wilson, Trousdale, Smith, Williamson, Rutherford, Cannon, and Maury County. So in all those counties,
it's Murray.
There is a Murray County, but that's it.
Murray is in Kentucky.
All right, agree to this.
If you're from Santa Fe, let me know if it's Murray County.
Spring Hill, it's Murray County.
Maury County. Murray. I have a friend who's actually the president of that Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to get him on here as a guest.
Bring it.
Let's
Let me get everybody I know in Murray County because I've been corrected.
That's awesome. All right. So what I was going to say is that that being said, there's like a no man's land, and this is where the shiny penny is. There's a no man's land between that national conforming loan limit and that $943,000 loan limit, where you're going to pay, depending on your down payment, more in discount points for the same interest rate that you might be able to get otherwise. So, for example, if you're in that high cost space, they call it a high balance loan, you're looking, this is yesterday's information, rate of 7.625%. And I can't remember the credit score that I did on this, but it was 7.625%. And that was a monthly principal and interest payment of $5,662. And it cost $8,000 to get that rate in discount points. You could do a jumbo loan.
And what was the loan size on that?
$800,000. So it's $1 million house with a 20% down payment. So that was a great question. $800,000 loan amount. On the flip side, you could do a jumbo loan. Now you have to have an investor who allows this, and we've got one. If you have an investor that will allow a jumbo loan over the national conforming limit instead of the local areas loan limit, they could do this same loan, $800,000 at 7.25 with no discount, and the monthly principal and interest payment was $5,457. So the monthly savings, if you can handle a $5,600 payment, you can probably handle. Or if you handle a $5,400 payment, you can probably handle a $5,600 payment. But that $8,000 in extra closing costs to get a payment that's $200 a month more, it's pretty significant. So if you're my shiny penny is if you are thinking about a real estate transaction in that space, and where these numbers are going to be relevant to your conversation, make sure that you're asking about all the options and that you're thinking about, does it make sense for us to see if we can get this done through a jumbo loan that's non-conforming rather than a conforming loan.
And I'll tell you, yes, absolutely. And in that situation, so I'm always going to say, Brian's going to shoot you straight and figure out which option makes you the most sense. One of the things I took out of what you just said is some of the counties that are included in the Nashville MSA. I did not realize that Cannon was in there.
Right. Trousdale.
Dixon, Trousdale.
Yeah.
Dixon, I guess, makes sense, but I thought it was just the counties that touched Davidson.
Right. No, it's a bigger
but it didn't
area.
Include Montgomery.
Did not include Montgomery.
Because I've always thought that Montgomery was part of that. That's for those of you that may not know, that's
Clarksville.
Fort Camp. Yeah, Clarksville.
No, it's not on that list.
That is fascinating to me. Okay, good stuff. All right, so there's our shiny penny. We have no featured guests because nobody loves us, and we did the yes, it's real, and now we're ready for the pro tip. So I'm going to go against some of what we've already been saying, okay? And let's just call it devil's advocate for something you said earlier, all right? Brian's advice was go ahead and tap that equity early, get that HELOC open, and have that at your disposal now before you need it. And I think that that's wise for some folks. For others, I would tell you this: be very cautious to tap into your equity. Be very cautious about, basically know yourself. So some folks will take a HELOC and they'll use that to do an addition on their home or renovation on their home, or, buy a investment property or pay off a credit card or whatever. And I think that's all a fine use for a HELOC. I think that makes sense a lot of times. But you really got to be honest with yourself. If you're going to use that HELOC to pay off debt, then don't go get in debt again, right? And if you don't think that you can do that, don't attach that debt to your house, and be very cautious about that.
That's great.
So be hesitant to tap that equity. If you're sitting on it right now and you've got that at your disposal, be very judicious about when you're going to use that and how you're going to use that. It is not vacation money. It is not your kid's college fund, probably, right? It is, I mean, a student loan debt is, even if you help your kid with a student loan debt, it's way cheaper than what a HELOC is now, because the other thing to remember is that a HELOC is adjustable. So the HELOC that I have open right now, it's at over 9% interest.
Yeah.
So if you do an addition using a HELOC and you spend $120,000, all of a sudden you've got, $1,400, $1,500 payment.
Yeah.
And it might just be interest only, so you never move forward on
If
it.
you're only paying the interest, then yeah, you're not. You will wake up in 10 years and still owe that $100,000 on it.
And have paid through the nose to keep it.
Yeah.
So I like HELOCs, but you've got to really be honest with yourself about yourself.
If it's going to, that's a great point. If it's just going to allow you to continue living the lifestyle that you lived, and you're not going to make other cutbacks to your budget, it can be a dangerous tool. So
And
know yeah, it's a great point, man.
And if you tap that thing out and then you hit a problem and you've got to sell, then you have no nest egg
coming back to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So be really cautious, and just, I can't say this enough. Be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Right. If you've got this windfall equity sitting there, right, and you do hit a snag, it might make sense that you sell your house.
Yeah.
For several reasons.
Yeah.
Before you lose it.
Yeah. It'd be better to sell and take the gain, take the money, and go rent somewhere until you're back.
Yeah.
In stable employment.
And only you can know that about yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyway,
good advice.
Exercise discernment.
Always.
That's it. That's all I got.
That's the show.
I think we did it.
All right. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you sharing. And we're going to go out now. Do we have anything else that we got to cover?
No, I do want to give a shout out to Phillip Byard again.
Yep.
Music City Hardscapes and
Yeah,
Music City Pond Pros.
Saw some pictures. That dude's
He's
legit.
a beast. He's a beast.
Yeah.
Great guy too. Veteran, owned businesses, longtime Nashville resident. Super good guy and supporter of the new 1200 Club with
Right on.
By the Positive. So thank you, Phillip.
Who's also a guest at our May 14th class on home improvement.
May 14th. That's right. Here at Cedar Glade Brews. Thank you, Missy. We have a class on home improvement, home maintenance, that kind of thing. So mark your calendars if you need some more details. That starts at what, 6? Is that right? May 14th, 6 o'clock. Cedar Glade Brews. We're going to have a good time. I've got a list to give you. It's going to be great.
Awesome.
All right.
That's
Thanks
a
so much.
valuable list also. Anyway. All right.
Roll the disclaimer, Trent.
We outie. Thank you for listening to another episode of This Week in Real Estate with Jonathan Harmon and Bryan Nale, your go-to resource for all things real estate in Middle Tennessee. Be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. We will see y'all on the next one.
Now for the nitty-gritty. Primis Mortgage Company is a subsidiary of Primis Bank, a member FDIC. Primis Mortgage NMLS number 1894879, BK number 1042893, ML number 1894879. As always, all loans are subject to credit approval and product guidelines. Equal housing lender.